It didn't happen gradually. All of a sudden, everything was crystal clear. The root of all my misfortunes and achievements was unveiled, undoubtedly perfect in detail, along with an empowering frame of reference containing all that I needed to know in order to nurture any goal and dissolve any unfulfilling pattern. I was staring at the fact that my life was just expressing the tip of the iceberg of all that I could do, have, and most importantly, be. Luckily, this vision also came a precious gift which I recognized immediately as the seed of lasting transformation within and without. Everyone I admired seemed to get it. Some unconsciously, some so aware of the nature of this toolset that were almost devotional using it. As soon as I understood that this was the ticket to true freedom and creative choice, I decided that it would be the pillar of my thoughts and actions for the rest of my life. This collection of tools was so practical that I could start to apply it at the very moment I discovered it. However, I also knew that it meant to let go of my old self behind forever. It didn't really scare me, as I could see that it was a small price to pay since I had just been confronted with the boundless potential that was lying ahead. Before I had this insight and started to apply it, I was beyond miserable. Hopelessness and the heavy absence of vitality permeated every second of my days, having to drag myself from bed every morning and through every daily activity. I really had hit bottom, and my will for living was in decay. It had been a rough period, and the last 3 years, slowly and surely, every area of my life was deteriorating. My self-image was shrinking, and I was losing sight of who I really was. Every attempt to move out of that nightmare was not only failed, but also left a stain in my sense of hope. Life itself seemed to be rejecting me. Happiness became a myth. I didn't ask for help, nor did I believe that it would be worthwhile. I was sure that even if my circumstances changed, I would eventually tear down, step by step, every valuable thing around me, as if I was destined to be stuck in a pattern of everlasting unfulfillment. It had not always been this way. I remembered experiencing quite the opposite. In the past, somewhere along my path, I was filled with enthusiasm, a healthy dose of self-confidence, and strong sense of direction for my life. At that stage, I was getting extremely good results on whatever task that came my way or that I had set for myself. But this time, that period felt like a distant dream that I couldn't believe or understand how it ever came to be, much less how I could get in touch with whatever made that all possible. The main theme that surrounded my thoughts was filled with self-sabotage, self-loathing, and a growing sense of despair. Although I presumed that changing everything around me wouldn't do much to the way I felt due to the fact that I appeared to be the single reason of all that was getting torn apart, I somehow knew that something huge and disruptive had to happen to me to smash my life into pieces in order to start building my life all over again from the ground up. Soon, I discovered that I was right. One day, seemingly out of nowhere, the most tragic and traumatic event I've ever experienced came across my way. It left me paralyzed in terror, agony, and absolute shock. I won't go into detail about exactly what happened, but I want you to know that it was truly a taste of all the sorrows in the world. Some of those who witnessed what happened jumped in to help in any way possible and showed me what it's like to help deeply and selflessly. This is not about that particular event. It is about what I realized after the dust settled. That event was not only the worst, but also the best thing that ever happened to me because of that realization. An insight with the power to move mountains, the obstacles that present themselves in so many ways in our lives. So simple, yet so profoundly powerful. Applying all our focus towards these principles magnifies our efforts manyfold. It's a true leverage for all our demands. After that particular event, it took a long time to make sense of all that happened. At the beginning, I couldn't see any meaning whatsoever. But when I healed and made peace with the past, I felt like I had reborn. Along with that feeling, a fresh sense of new opportunities for creative growth. But of all those new opportunities, one stood out as the most important. I recognized it as the foundation through which all the other opportunities could grow and flourish. I'm not talking about this with the light purpose of temporarily inspiring you to make ephemeral changes. This talk is intended to shake up the very core of your being and disrupt all the dysfunctional patterns that present themselves on your life, making room for an infinite number of creative possibilities of your own choice. This isn't just a bold statement. It is an honest framing of the triumphant vision through which these words emerged that left me in awe and reverence. This insight is about our relationship with our most precious asset, behavior. The aim of this book is to radically transform the way you see, interact, and use your behavior. It highlights two core aspects of what happens within it: deliberate action and deliberate inaction. As we'll see, both are equally important. It also brings to light the link between the very moment we detect an intended action and the time we take to start executing it, or, in the case of detecting an unintended action, the time we take to stop doing it. One of the most important aspects of this idea is that it also provides an objective way to measure your self-mastery and to challenge your current level of achievement. It quantifies self-discipline and your relationship with time itself. When you see in front of you a number that reflects without a shadow of a doubt an honest evaluation of your inner mental game that gets you closer to decisive action, you start rethinking your strategies and check what's working and what's not. As I digested the insight and turned the big picture into manageable pieces, the core elements that compose it revealed an accessible path that anyone can follow and whose transformative power is only limited by how much we are willing to adhere to it. The building blocks of the insight are as follows: detection, decision, transcendence, time, and activity. We'll explore the nature of each element and the way they branch out into their component parts, as well as the path that they form as a whole. The more you understand this path, the more it becomes a matter of choice of either living your full potential or not. All these elements are crucial, and this exists with the sole purpose of empowering you to orchestrate them. As you do it, you'll experience such a profound shift in your self-image and self-efficacy that will not only move you closer to your intentions, but will also result into a sense deeper of a highly rewarding existence. In the beginning of this path comes the detection phase. We need to pay attention to ourselves and our surroundings to start the process of actually finding out what's happening within and without, discovering what is populating our inner mental landscape, the way we are expressing it through our behavior, and finding the deepest intentions that reflect what we really want. The first part of the insight highlighted exactly how little attention we usually pay to the events that occur inside and outside ourselves. Nowadays, the concept of mindfulness is becoming well known, as well as the scientific studies that support its wide range of mental health benefits. Unfortunately, although most people understand the concept fairly well, they don't put it to practice as often as they could. Besides that, albeit it offers a wonderful therapeutic value by itself, the power of mindfulness is exponentially enhanced if we choose to use it along with other methods to actually create the lasting changes that we wish to generate in our lives. This way, as we purposefully direct our attention to our existence and its contents, we are able to detect where there's room for improvement, to implement the actions and habits that will create the component parts of the life we truly desire. There are four main branches of the detection phase. Detection of perception, the input we are getting at each moment through our senses. Detection of intentions, our own deepest core desires we should aim for. Detection of our inner mental landscape, the contents of our mind and their nature. Detection of our behavior, our actions and habits and the patterns they form. What we actually perceive from our sensory input is nothing but a fraction of what is happening around us.